Hello friends and welcome. We're back to paint some toys. We're going to paint this guy. Or rather, these 7 guys. Been a little while since I've been painting toys. I've got lots of projects planned, but I'm just making sure I enjoy my hobby time wherever it may come from. Hello there, Doms. Not so young these days, but yeah. Alright, I have absolutely got no idea what I want to do with these fellas, but I just thought I'll whip out the airbrush and I'll put some colour on them, and then we'll decide from there. So they're all dwarves, so I want them to have a similar skin tone. But I do want there to be some differences between each of the dwarves. So not sure exactly how we're going to have differences, but we'll figure it out. Hello, paint liquor. Yeah, so we have the next little while planned out for me, because very soon, in approximately 15-16 days, we'll have the next glorious Kingdom Death expansion, the Vignette of Death, Nukalope. We won't have it here, but we'll have it available to purchase, and that is exciting. I am always enthusiastic about new Kingdom Death content. I love new models. I bumped this guy from his stick, so he wobbles around now, which is a bit annoying. Yeah, I too am excited for the October sale, the October Sasalele. Need more yellow. Better. I had a couple of ideas for these guys. My first one was I was thinking about building a little window frame, a circular window frame, and then basically make them all be staring at the window, waiting for Snow White. And I thought that could be fun way to add some shadows and stuff. But yeah, I decided to just paint them because they are SPIRAs, and that is all you need. Literally all you need is for it to be a SPIRA. You don't need to do anything else. Alright, that's an interesting enough start. Let's play with some brushes. Well, I need to win the lottery, friends, so I can spend all my time painting for me to catch up on my Kingdom Death Survivors collection. The list grows ever longer. Alexa, airbrush off. So we'll definitely use that one. Medium Flesh from Nocturna. Yes, exactly. That would be the dream. Isn't it funny? Most people think about winning the lottery so they can buy flash cars and live in big houses and travel. I'd win the lottery so I could sit in my little room and paint more. I have a pretty cool Kingdom Death collection of figures now. I would suggest there's probably few people in the world now that have amassed a Kingdom Death collection of painted figures as extensive as mine. I know there are definitely people who have painted better than mine, but I have probably pushing of 100 survivors painted, and every monster that I could possibly get my hands on and painted done. So that's cool. That feels good. Alright, let's zoom in a bit on this. Maybe we'll just tilt this down a bit. There we go. Hell yeah, that display case was expensive, but worthwhile. It's basically a display case devoted entirely to Kingdom Death now. There's none of my dioramas in there at the moment. I did have my primal models on display. But yeah, when I moved, I popped those in the box and haven't got them out yet. I will. Get me primer ones out. Yes, indeed. SPIRA Sunday. You can't go wrong. You just can't go wrong painting a SPIRA. Anytime I think to myself, yeah, I'm not really feeling painting anything at the moment, I just crack open a SPIRA, and what do you know? The enthusiasm's back. Yes, absolutely, Tui. Welcome to you. I tried to quantify what it was about them that captured me so much, because honestly, SPIRAs were the thing that got me into display painting very early on. I bought a SPIRA back when I first started display painting. The first one I bought was the Elf Rider, and I was just enamoured. And I was trying to figure out what it was. Trying to figure out for a long time. And I still can't really give you a clear answer, but I think part of the reason is they are hand sculpted, and you can genuinely feel the difference, I think, when you sit down to paint them. You know, the little imperfections add to the result rather than detract. The way he chooses to sculpt faces and hands, the hands get me every time. Every little hand sculpt that he does is so good. Yeah, he doesn't overcomplicate. I remember very early on when I was learning, I went over to Massive Voodoo Studio, and I did a 2-day course with Raphael Pica, and got to spend that time discussing models and discussing stuff. And I painted a figure whilst Rafa painted the Bear Crom box art sculpt. And one of the things he talked about was digital sculpting. G'day, Mutable. Digital sculpting versus physical sculpting, because he'd just finished physically sculpting Bear Crom. And the thing he said to me that stuck with me was, every time I want to add a belt buckle to this model, I need to think about how badly it needs a belt buckle, because that's like an extra hour. Whereas in digital sculpting, you just go Control C, Control V, bang, there's another belt buckle, you know? And so what you tend to have is models with less detail in a physical sculpt like this, but more considered. If it is absolutely necessary, it will be there. But if it's not necessary, it won't. It'll disappear. And I really like that mentality of, okay, cool, how essential is this to the piece? And if it is essential, well, it's going to get done. Beep, beep, beep. Well, the big diorama made its way all the way over to Las Vegas and survived the journey intact. So the diorama now joins its friends at Verco's vault. And hopefully will be on display there for a little while, yeah. It is always good news. It's probably one of the complexity things that I don't talk about or think about much. Talk about, I guess, but I do think about it. When sending these crazy projects overseas. But it's a huge component of the process. Designing something that can look cool and is also able to be sent in a giant box. So let's talk about what I'm doing. Well, I didn't really have a plan. Yeah, I've had stuff break before. I've got a couple of people there that basically just fix stuff. They're moving away from having stuff mailed because of the risk of damage during transport. But there's not really many ways for me to travel with my toys. So, but yeah, if something was to break, they have they have some people that can fix it. They have a lot of artists that travel there and spend some time there. And so, last time something was broken, Kaha fixed it on my diorama for me, which is cool. So yeah. What got acquired from you, mate? Did something from yours get acquired there? Is that the coolest thing got acquired? Oh yeah. Yeah, Alexi's horse is glorious. And indeed, he did travel to the Las Vegas Open and pick himself up a wonderful best of show. Yeah, it's a legitimate concern. Being able to send things without having to be damaged. Because I've sold a number of dioramas now, I've got a pretty good system that seems to work. That's no secret, by the way. If you want me to explain how I send them, I'm happy to talk through it. Yeah, the library's awesome, but it would definitely be risky. Wonderful paint liquor. I'd be happy to talk about it. So the first thing that I do is I measure out the dimensions of the diorama. And with those dimensions, I then design a wooden box. And so the internal dimensions of the box need to fully enclose the diorama within the internal dimensions. I specify that because of prior experience in building said box. That's external dimensions were correct, but internally it did not fit. So that was fun. But the way I do that is I go to my local Bunnings, which is a hardware store, and they have a wood chopping machine there, and they'll chop stuff for you. So they chop out all of the stuff that I've specifically measured. I use MDF depending on the size and weight of the diorama. I'll either use a 9mm MDF, or you can even get 12mm MDF. And once I have designed the box, cut the box, I bring the box home and I assemble the box, and I add some strengthening stuff like little channel arm dowel that I attach to the corners of the boxes and screw things to them to just add some structural integrity, so it's not just a wooden box that could sort of collapse on itself. Just to add some strength across the box, and then I will screw the diorama to the base of the box. So once it's in that box, it very rarely moves or has any vibration or anything like that. And that's generally the thing that breaks stuff when you are sending it. It's the vibration. It's not moving around in the box. It's vibration. So yes, once it's screwed to there, I then will fill the void with beanbag stuff, beanbag balls. I'll usually use some bubble wrap first, because a few years ago I had an issue where the beanbag balls actually, I think they heated up and they stuck to the surface of one of the things I'd painted and left all this weird residue on there. Now, I think it was actually partly to do with the surface, like it was basically straight contrast paint, so it may have been activated by the heat, which is what caused the balls. I've only ever had it once, and it was only in an area that wasn't important. It was on the underside, so I don't think it had been hit with varnish, which I think is what caused the anyway. So I cover the models with bubble wrap first, and then I use the bean bags to fill the void to again reduce vibration and movement. And then I seal up the wooden box and bubble wrap around that, and then put that wooden box inside a cardboard box. I have put that inside 2 cardboard boxes before, depending on how how fragile I feel it is and how concerned I am about the transport. And then that is the hardest part done. However, because of the size of most of these boxes, I can't transport it via my normal Australia Post. So I have to go to a different transport company. Depending on the timing, I've used FedEx in the past. FedEx has been pretty good, but they are expensive. So I tried a new one this time, which is called Pack and Send. And they too were expensive, but pretty good. And that's it. So the hardest part is getting the box right. And I've had to, because even though measure twice, cut once, even though I measure everything out and sort of try to plan it out, because I got some Bunnings nuffy cutting the wood, it's never fitted quite perfectly. No, I didn't, Tui. What happened? Hello, Justin. When I'm only sending busts, you can do it in a lot easier way. So you just buy a plastic container from your local Coles, Woolies, whatever it may be, and I screw the bust to the plastic container, to the bottom of the plastic container, and then do the same thing, void fill, and some bubble wrap, pop it in a wooden box, and then send it off. I'm well, mate. And yeah, so I've done that many times, and I've had very few breakages. The only time I had a breakage recently that was significant was because the weight of the thing that I'd sent was too much, and so it actually snapped at the plastic. Yeah, so that one wasn't fun. But that was a good few years ago now. Most of the stuff I send these days, I haven't had a problem. But yeah, the dioramas pose their own unique challenge in sending. Yeah. I can already tell where this is going to go, and yep, it's painful. Yep. And it's just rattling around inside that box with nothing keeping it in place, smashing it up. Yuck. That's just your worst nightmare, hey? Well done, mate. Congratulations on reaching affiliate. I very early on I considered trying to become a Twitch partner, but The piece that is hardest to get becoming Twitch partner is average viewers over a concurrent period. Alright mate, have fun at PAX. Say hi to Ben and Bunny for me. Oh no. Yeah, that's a bad story. The model would have been basically unrecognisable. It just would have been a... Oh. Those Warhammer scrubs should be like one of those Anchorman fights with the news crews, mate. Kill one of them with a trident. Yes, well, as Tui's story highlights, it's a very important... it's a very important thing to ship your models in a way that is going to protect them in the most possible ways. So this week I watched Wednesday Season 2. It was pretty fun. I don't think it was quite as good as Season 1. But worth a watch. Worth a watch. You definitely need to get a SPIRA. They're the best models to paint. The best. No. I've got my light source sort of coming from this direction. So it's going to catch most of the guys on the left with full light on their faces. But the guys on the right, it's only going to catch the left side, so that's why we're sort of doing that. And then this guy, I'm just doing a little bit more of the right side. hopefully this will all make sense what I'm doing in about 10 minutes time when I whip out my airbrush. I played a great board game actually recently, which I don't think I've talked about on stream yet, called Civolution. Very cool game. Okay. And now we will go to the light flesh. If we can find it. Where the fuck are you? There you are, you saucy minx. No, I'm pretty sure they're gone. Gone. But yeah, this is a good one. I've got a few Winsor & Newtons ready to crack open. Oh wow, you can't even see that part of me palette. That's dumb. Deno. Oh, nice one, Deno. Get some paint on your shirt. That's alright. So if you've not watched me paint before, I'm sure most of the people that are on here have, the goal at this stage is to create a very high value shift between light and dark on these little guys, because the next step that I'm going to do, which is with my airbrush, will have the effect of bringing the two value extremes, the light and the dark, together and bring them closer together. So unfortunately it reduces the amount of contrast that we have, so you need to over contrast at this point otherwise you don't have enough contrast when you do the airbrush. So this tends to look a little bit crazy and a little bit wild. But when we airbrush it all down, it works. Usually. Usually. So yeah, so what we're looking for here is two things: to make sure that the light that I'm placing is in the right spot, and to make sure that there is a big enough contrast from light and dark. So that is about right. So now I will airbrush some colours. I think I'm going to use a colour I haven't used in a long time, just Resurrection Flesh. Yeah, this could work. Sure. Maybe that's a little bit too browny. We'll see. Alexa, airbrush on. So this layer that I'm about to spray, we want it to be slightly higher than mid-tone sort of colour. And we don't want it to be super thick, we want it to be slightly transparent. Cool. So let's see how that goes. And the reason we've chosen a slightly higher value, mid-tone, is because the next step is to do some shading with contrast paints. Cool. So I know that there are people that use the airbrush for softening and smoothing, which is Sergio. and other people, no doubt, many other people. But I haven't ever seen anyone do it quite the same way that I have just done there. That seems to be a more uniquely me thing than anyone else, which is cool. Ooh, this is a cool colour. I might use that for something. So now what I like to do is grab some peanut butter. Peanut butter! And I'll use that to do some little glazes, as well as some volupus pink. Two great colours. And let's just do some shading. Just a little bit. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. You and I. Alright. Yeah, the airbrush is a really wonderful tool for miniature painting. Really wonderful. I mean, I'm sure it would come as absolutely no surprise to know that I do not think I could paint very well without it. So that's just some subtle colouring that I've done there. But we can go a little bit thicker with some colour. We might put a little bit more peanut butter. And make that a little bit more overt in. Okay. That'll do for airbrushing for now. Hey Alexa, airbrush off. Hey Alexa, airbrush off. Nice. Okay, now we'll switch to a fine detail brush. This Artist Opus. And no, actually what we might do, I might do some other colours actually. Let's use some dark sea blue and some tenebrous grey. Let's block in some other bits. See how that goes. Oh, the dwarves had red hats, didn't they? Is that right? Did they all have red hats? Or am I thinking of gnomes? I'm thinking of gnomes, I think. Yeah, right, okay. Cool. This is actually an important stage for understanding the values. So sometimes you'll paint a skin tone and you'll be like, yeah, that looks great. And then you'll look at it next to some other colours and you'll go, oh, actually, my skin tone is too dark and it needs more value. So adding a light colour now, or adding a dark colour rather, onto the paint job will help us visualise what is happening a little bit better. And especially for the way that I paint, this is a useful thing to do. And the reason I say that is the airbrush has a tendency to hit spray in all sorts of areas. So having this on there will help you visualize where we need to add value or subtract value. Let's do this colour for this guy's beard. Look at all the little animal friends. Okay. That gives us a little bit better read of what is happening on this piece. So that's good. Alright, so now that's a bit of basic skin tone. It's a little bit of that, a little bit of that. So this step is where we're refining the detail of the skin a little bit further, making sure we've got highlights in the areas we want highlights. And we'll add some shadows as well. So I think the last stream that I did, I was talking a lot about rugby league because the last stream was right before the rugby league NRL grand final, and I was talking about one of the great stories that had come out of the rugby league final, which was Brisbane Broncos and one of their players, Ben Hunt. Well, the fairy tale happened, believe it or not. The Brisbane Broncos won the NRL Premiership. Ben Hunt got his redemption arc. And it was absolutely incredible. Again, for people who don't really follow sport, not super meaningful, but for me, the way that the Broncos won was absolutely crazy. It is going to go down as one of the all-time performances in rugby league folklore. Is Dopey's purple? Cool. I like purple. So this is a part where I tend to deviate from most of the good painters in the world. Those people do tend to refine and smooth these things down, have it be very refined. I love all this texture. Look at this. This is so interesting to me to look at. So that's what I'm going to stick with. I'm going to stick with interesting to me. We'll still do some smoothing. Well, let me make something very important clear. It isn't like random. It's not just add splotches wherever you want and it'll look good. You know, there is some thought behind placement of things. So it's not completely random, but it is, more more considered than it looks. The placement is just about volumes. That's the only part you need to really understand, is just volumes and where the light would hit. Once you get that, you can sort of know where the random element needs to go. I think it may be my turn in Through the Ages, A New Story of Civilization. Let's have a look. Is that what it is? No, it's not. How are we going in Through the Ages, A New Story of Civilization? Let's have a look. Well, unfortunately for me, Koki, who went first, he's on 84 culture. Picteno trailing behind at 40. My culture production is slightly more than his right now, but he is very hard to run down with this sort of lead. Tobes having a Barry Crocker, Wedgie having even more of a Barry Crocker. I'm pretty well placed, I think. as long as I can pick myself up this opera, if I can get that opera and architecture. I also want that coal, actually. See, if I take the coal, it's going to ramp up my resource production dramatically. This little guy's pretty good. Antonio Gaudi. Developing an urban building costs you 1 layers for each other type. Your best urban building of each type produces 1 extra. Yeah, so if I get the opera, that will be generating me 4 additional culture. And then I need to get an arena. And that'll be all 5 of those buildings, which would be nice. This is the biggest problem right now. Only 2 military actions. I'm vulnerable to attack, but I'm currently the leader in strength, so we'll see. We'll see. It's a good game, that. Through the Ages, New Story of Civilization. Available on your App Store. My friends and I have been playing a game of that for the last 1.5 years. As in, every time we finish one, we just start a new one. And it is absolutely wonderful. One of the best games I've ever played. I did a little playthrough last night, recorded a little playthrough of a card game that's coming out on Kickstarter soon. I did a little print and play version, and yeah, I'm gonna film a proper playthrough, but this afternoon. So that's fun. The little join between beard and skin is one that has always given me problems. Getting that right. Crucial. We'll add a little airbrush glaze after this. This one will be a little bit more refined than the last one. And again, that's just to smooth out, add some nuance, add some colour. Yeah, it's pretty satisfying to knock something like that up in, what are we at, an hour and 17 minutes, slightly less. Yes, I would, but orange is a lot easier than red because you can shade with red and you can highlight with yellow and it still looks orange. Highlighting red, it either goes into pink or it goes into orange. So that's where the difference between those two is, and why it's much easier to highlight orange than it is red. You are very welcome. Alright, I am going to trundle off now. That is the end of the stream. That's where these guys are going to be at. We'll have a play around with them tomorrow in the evening. And yeah, what a great time. Thank you all. I'll catch you all again tomorrow night. Have a great week if I don't see you then. You're all wonderful. Big Tano out.